I'm on. You need to put more time, effort, and hours and deliver more results. Otherwise, you're not going to be promoted come summer. And as soon as he said that, I knew I was done. Hey crew, welcome back to the channel. You guys read the title of this video. This is not a normal one of my videos. I'm not going to be talking about how to get better at lead code, how to find a software engineer internship. This is a story of why I'm no longer a software engineer. This story is structured in several chapters, so maybe make a cup of coffee, put in your AirPods, or hit the gym. I'm going to take you all the way back to June of 2020, the summer when I started this YouTube channel. I had just finished my freshman year studying computer science and COVID had just hit, which meant that I was at home doing nothing, just quarantining with my family. And around that time, I discovered Abdaal for the first time. I watched a bunch of his videos on active recall, spaced repetition, and that blew my mind. And then I found a video where he talked about how much money he made, and specifically how much money he made off of Skillshare. And once I saw that, I was sold. I sat there with my brother and I filmed my very first piece of content, which was a Skillshare class on C#. C# was a programming language I was using in my very first software engineering internship that summer. I published that Skillshare class and that's when everything started for me. After that, I consumed a ton more of all these content, started watching Gary Vee, I found Joe Rogan, Naval Ravikant, Tim Ferriss, and I basically stepped foot in the world of entrepreneurship and self-improvement. That summer, I published my very first YouTube video about why I had a MacBook Pro as a computer science student, and from then on, I was hooked. I was publishing new YouTube videos 1-2 times a month for months and months and months. Now, at that time of my life, I was still very much a college student. I had 3 more years of school left, so YouTube was always a side thing. I would do my classes, do my homework, apply to internships, and then in my free time, I would go and film YouTube videos, which meant that in my first 2 to 3 years of making YouTube videos, I only really published maybe 1 video a month on average. And during that time, I was also editing all of my own videos. And the reason I had so much time was because it was COVID. No one was doing anything. I was just sitting in this room that you see around you right now. I had very few friends. I would just spend all day on my homework, sit down here, film some videos, just edit them all myself. If it wasn't for COVID, this channel would never exist. So at least that's one positive of the pandemic. Now, again, around that time, I had a few viral bangers. For example, my Notion video went viral, had 200, 300,000 views on it. My Amazon video also went viral, got like 100,000 views on it as well. But largely, YouTube was just a side thing. I didn't really see it as a career option, something that I was going to go all into. Again, it was a bit of a pipe dream. Like in my mind, I thought, hey, one day, 5-10 years from now, if this channel just magically blows up, maybe I'll leave software engineering, maybe I'll go into it full time and see how it goes. This takes me all the way to when I graduated college last year in May of 2023, around 12 months ago. And again, YouTube was always the side thing up until that point. Now in May of 2023, YouTube was still the side thing. I had a full-time offer to become a software engineer. I was joining a company in Madison, Wisconsin. I was super excited about that. And I was still publishing only 1 video a month. Granted, the videos were getting better. They were getting higher quality because I did care about the channel. I was putting my internship money and my full-time job money into the channel, but I still never took it super seriously. So I started working at SameGoal, the software engineering company in Madison, and I loved it. For 3 to 4 months, all I did was just work as a software engineer. I didn't really even care about YouTube around that time. If you look back at my channel history, you'll see that last summer of 2023, I only really published a handful of videos. Some of them ended up doing well. My internship video ended up doing well, but other than that, it was just really a side thing. I ended up barely posting for the first 6 months of work. I took it seriously, but it wasn't my entire life. I was enjoying the summer. I was hanging out with my friends. I joined the rowing team for the first time. I really ramped up my singing lessons. I was taking the gym more seriously. Life was good. I was just enjoying the summer. Now let's go to October of 2023, 5 to 6 months after I started working my job. My brother calls me and tells me that this YouTuber, Captain Sinbad, has launched a YouTube coaching program. Now, I've been watching Captain Sinbad's videos for years at this point, and I had seen that he was posting advertisements in his YouTube videos about having this kind of group mastermind YouTube coaching program where he was helping people become YouTubers. And I always had at the back of my mind, hey, it might be interesting to actually buy a YouTube coaching program. I never spent money on learning how to do this better, but in the back of my mind, I knew that, hey, it might actually be valuable to do that. But his application was actually kind of annoying, so I spent months and months and months not applying until my brother just called me one more time and was like, bro, you have to apply to his program. Just apply and see what the price is. So then I submitted the application. I actually spent some time and effort writing out my responses, really workshopping it, so I had a really solid application. And I didn't hear anything back for 1 to 2 months until finally, out of nowhere, Captain Sinbad sent me an email. And in that email, he said that he loved my YouTube channel. He'd love to hop on a call with me, chat with me, and see if I'd be a good fit for the coaching program. When I got that email at work, I was overjoyed. I'd never had a YouTuber, a professional YouTuber, a real content creator, even see my name, reach out to me or anything like that. So I excitedly set up a call with Captain Sinbad, and that call happened a few days later. Now, in that call, I actually talked to one of his guys, Manoj, his head of sales at the time, and Manoj convinced me that I should join this coaching program. Now, he told me the price on the call. It was $5,000. And that amount of money I had never spent on anything in my entire life before. $5,000. That's months and months of rent and food. So it was hard to make that decision on the call. So I hung up, then I talked to my brothers, I talked to my parents, I talked to my girlfriend, and we all decided whether this program was actually worth investing into. And in that moment, I realized, hey, I love this YouTube thing. I've been earning a ton of money from my job. I have a bunch of money saved up for my internships. Why don't I just put $5,000 in this thing? And if I don't end up liking it, he had a guarantee where you could do half the program. And if you didn't like it, you would get your money back as long as you did the work. And I knew that I was going to do the work. I knew I would show up to every single call. I knew I would do all the assignments. So I decided to just risk it all and just put $5,000 into this coaching program. And at the time, honestly, people thought I was crazy. I told my friends that I'd spent $5,000 on YouTube coaching, and they looked at me dumbfounded. They were like, who the fuck spends that kind of money on anything? So I joined Captain Sinbad's YouTube coaching program, and that changed everything for me. The thing is that I'm the kind of person who, if I commit, if I put the money in, there is no world where I don't actually do the work and take advantage of the resources that I've just purchased. No world at all. Which is why I'm such a huge fan of spending on high-ticket boot camps, high-ticket coaching programs, or even giving my friend $1,000 and only having them give it back to me if I complete a certain challenge. I knew that if there was money on the line, I would perform. Now, as soon as I joined that coaching program, my entire world shifted. Now I had this money on the line, so I ended up spending 10, 20 hours a week on YouTube aside from work. There were days where in the morning I would wake up at 6, work on YouTube for 1 to 2 hours, go to work, during lunch come back, work on YouTube for 1 to 2 hours, leave work at 5, and then work on YouTube for 3 to 4 more hours that day. That's how insane I was about YouTube. And then literally on every single weekend, I was spending all day Saturday and all day Sunday grinding on my channel. There was so much focus, it was unreal. YouTube effectively took over my entire life. I would go to work, but instead of coding, instead of doing good work as a software engineer, there were days when I would spend the entire day just dreaming about working on my channel. It effectively became a part-time job, and it was starting to eat away at my focus when it came to my programming and software work. Now let's fast forward a couple months to November or December of 2023. This video came out. Abdaal published this video. It's kind of like an unfiltered video, kind of like this one, where he talked about how his life was changing. He was gonna go become a digital nomad, and he was choosing to make less money to follow his dreams, which were only making videos when he wanted to. He wasn't gonna make them on any kind of time pressure. He was gonna avoid doing sponsorships unnecessarily. He was gonna take his life into his own hands. And I actually listened to that video in the shower as I was getting ready one day, and it changed my entire life. Because as soon as I stepped out of that shower, I decided that I was gonna move to North Carolina. Now, North Carolina seems completely random. You probably have no idea why I mentioned that, but let me give you some backstory here. So, my girlfriend and I have been in a long distance relationship for the past 3 to 4 years. And that relationship started during COVID. It was around March of 2021, and we've maintained it long distance up until now. We have spent a few months here and there living with each other, but largely this relationship was built off of us flying back and forth for years and years and years. And I didn't really know when the long distance was going to end. Like in my mind, I thought, okay, at some point we'll find jobs in the same area and just move in together. But in that moment, when I heard Abdaal tell me via my headphones in the shower that you could choose to make less money, that there was an option that you could make the active decision to scale back your life to prioritize what you actually care about at the cost of making less money, I knew that I had to quit my job. My girlfriend is doing a master's at NC State, and I knew that she couldn't move to Madison, Wisconsin. So I knew that I had to be the one to make the decision. I had to leave my job eventually so that I can move to North Carolina and move in with her. I had to be the one to end the long distance. Now again, this was December of 2023. I had spent maybe 6 or 7 months working at my full-time job. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I'll reach a year, it'll hit June of 2024, then I'll quit my job, then I'll move to North Carolina. Hell, maybe I'll even ask my boss if I can do remote or something. I was still planning on being a software engineer. I was going to move to North Carolina, maybe try to get a job at Microsoft or Google down there or something like that. In my mind, I was still a software engineer first, YouTuber second. Now we hit the next chapter of this story, which is February of 2024. Now, around this time of my life, it was the dead of winter, it was super cold outside, and I started to experience a level of low-level anxiety. I don't know if I would call it depression, but there were days where I would wake up and I would just feel completely overwhelmed, completely overloaded with things. My job was getting more stressful for some reason. I would find it tough to connect with my coworkers. Getting out of bed in the morning started to become a little bit of an issue. And in my mind, somehow I associated all of that with my phone, which is kind of a weird thing to say, right? Like, I don't know why, but I thought my phone and social media and the overstimulation was causing all of these issues. So there was a moment where I was in a random museum in London and I saw a picture of a cabin. And in that moment, when I saw that cabin, I was just hit with this feeling that I had to go to some kind of cabin and just do a digital detox and just get rid of everything. I actually cataloged all of this in real time on my newsletter. You can subscribe at amalmanazar.com/newsletter if you want more real-time updates. But after I saw that painting, I decided, okay, I'm going to a cabin. It's gonna happen sometime in February. I'm gonna do a full digital detox weekend. So that's what I did. I bought 3 books. Man's Search for Meaning, The Alchemist, and a random Stephen King book. And I locked my phone, so I couldn't actually access any social media apps. I could only make emergency phone calls and emergency texts. And over that weekend in this cabin, I spent the entire day reading. On Saturday specifically, I went to this random cafe, brought The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and then read that entire book from start to finish. And that changed everything. The Alchemist is a story about this shepherd boy named Santiago who gets hit with this vision that there's this treasure underneath the pyramids of Egypt. So he decides to go on this epic journey across the Strait of Gibraltar, across northern Africa to try to seek the treasure. Now, there's so many quotes from that book that completely blew my mind when I first read them. One of them is, "I can always go back to being a shepherd," the boy thought. "I learned how to care for sheep and I haven't forgotten how that's done. But maybe I'll never have another chance to get to the pyramids in Egypt." And as soon as I read that, my brain just clicked. I realized that I could swap out the words shepherd with software engineer and pyramids in Egypt with YouTuber. Stick with me. In my mind, I reread the quote as, "I can always go back to being a software engineer." Hell, my entire YouTube channel is about getting a job in software engineering. I know how it's done. I know I can find a job in software engineering if I actually want to, but maybe I'll never have another chance to go all into YouTube, to become a YouTuber, to become a content creator, to live up to the vision that Ali Abdaal painted for me 3-4 years ago. And in that moment, I knew that I had to go all into YouTube, and that was going to happen come June. So the plan originally was in June, I was going to quit, move to North Carolina, get another software engineering job, and just maintain that life. But after finishing The Alchemist, I just made the decision. No, I'm going all into YouTube come June. There is no world where I don't take this risk, where I don't take this chance on myself to see if I can make something of this channel. By the way, another great book other than The Alchemist that really informed this decision to go all in on YouTube was $1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan. Noah Kagan is a serial entrepreneur, investor, and CEO, and he's worth about $36 million. And one of the key lessons of the book is to start before you're ready. So many people waste a decade of their life thinking that they don't have the right idea, that they have to spend just a few more years working at a company before they come up with the right option. Noah Kagan emphasizes the point that your first company will most likely fail. Even if you spend a decade thinking about the perfect idea, you just don't have the skills yet to start and run a successful company. So if you're entrepreneurial at all, if you've ever had dreams of starting the next great software company, you must read $1 Million Weekend. If you buy this book on Amazon, it's $18. But if you buy the very same book on AppSumo, today's sponsor, it's only $7. That's over 60% off. Imagine the knowledge to start $1 million company for the price of a latte. AppSumo is the best place to get any kind of software for your business. I'm so sick of subscription software. I feel like everything nowadays is $15 a month, $20 a month. I miss those days when I could just buy something once and for all for a fixed price. And that's exactly what AppSumo offers. Hundreds of apps and tools for a one-time discounted cost. One really nifty app on AppSumo is called TidyCal. TidyCal lets you send a link to someone and they can immediately book a meeting on your calendar. It kind of eliminates that super annoying back and forth when it comes to scheduling a meeting with someone. TidyCal is only $29 as a one-off, whereas some of the alternatives out there are $10, $15 a month every month. In 2 or 3 months, TidyCal pays for itself. If you want to get $1 Million Weekend, as well as tons of other amazing apps and software to run your business, check out the link in the description and visit AppSumo. Thank you to AppSumo for sponsoring this video. Now, the next little part of the story also happened in February, and that was when I flew to Arizona to meet Captain Sinbad. He invited me out to Phoenix because he was doing like a informal kind of mastermind thing in Phoenix. And there I met Nathan Shantz, the guy who runs the Break the Formula podcast. And he invited me to come on that podcast. You might have seen that podcast already. That's where I catalog my entire life story and talk about tips for getting internships, my whole life story, how computer science changed everything for me, etc., etc. But the bigger aspect of that was that I got to see these two guys. I got to see Captain Sinbad, Nikhil Pandey, that's his real name, and Nathan Shantz, who are two entrepreneurs. I got to see how they lived their life. And more specifically, I got to see that they weren't shackled to any kind of 9-to-5 career. So to go on that trip, I had to take a PTO day off. Like I had to use one of my precious 14 vacation days for the entire year just so I could make that trip. But these guys, they straight up just rented cars. They could drive all around Arizona. They could do whatever they wanted. They didn't have to answer to any kind of boss or structure like that. So that put that lifestyle in the back of my mind. I was still a software engineer, but I started to glimpse what life would be like if I wasn't shackled to a 9-to-5 career. There are also some funny moments in that podcast where I would not commit to saying that I was thinking about leaving software engineering because I was worried that my boss was going to see it. It's an interesting snippet in time where I knew I was going to leave eventually, but I just didn't want to say so because I didn't want to make it public.
This year, next year, in 5 years, in 10 years, like kind of what's your thought process?
I'm not going to definitively say exactly what my plan is because I still have a job right now and that I need to you know? I need to like make sure that I tread carefully in terms of like my specific plans. Now we get to the final part of the story. 2 days later, after I left the Captain Sinbad mastermind in Arizona, I had a one-on-one performance review with my boss. Performance reviews happen every couple months in software engineering. That's where your manager or boss sits down with you and has an open conversation about how you're doing at the company. And in that one-on-one performance review, my boss turned to me and said, Aman, you need to put more time, effort, and hours and deliver more results. Otherwise, you're not going to be promoted come summer. And as soon as he said that, I knew I was done. Long story short, my boss had gotten the vibe that my heart really wasn't in software engineering. Or in other words, for the last 1 to 2 months, ever since I started treating YouTube like a part-time job, I was doing it in the morning, during lunch, and after work, my boss sensed that my heart wasn't in working at that company. And I think what he said is totally fair. He even said, I think you're a very capable engineer. I have noticed that you have great potential. And I think when you actually put your mind to something, you can achieve great results here. But he just felt like there was more that I should be doing if I wanted to become a senior engineer in 1 or 2 years. Now, let me remind you, this happened in February 2024. I was planning on quitting in June anyway. So whether I got promoted or not had no impact to my life whatsoever. But as soon as he said that I would have to put in more results for the next 4 or 5 months to deliver more, just to push more code, just to make a greater impact, I knew that I was at a crossroads. And the major crossroads was that I had to give something up. I had to make a sacrifice. I could no longer work at that company and be a software engineer and also have YouTube as a part-time job. I would either have to cut down my YouTube time, take it back to 1 or 2 years ago where I was only publishing once a month. It was kind of more of a hobby than a job. And then put those extra hours back into software engineering. And then I could actually make an impact and get promoted. Or I could leave my software engineering job, put 40, 50, 60 hours a week into this YouTube channel and see where this goes. And frankly, it felt like an absolute tragedy to sacrifice the thing that I looked forward to, the thing that I was dreaming about every single day, just to put more time and effort into a 9-to-5 job that I was going to quit anyway come June. Now, as soon as I had that realization that I could not kill my baby, I couldn't sacrifice my true passion, I reached out to a bunch of people. First, I talked to my therapist. And in that therapy session, I had the realization that I could just go and ask my parents to support me. The biggest reason why I was scared about quitting was that I thought I was going to starve. I was not going to have shelter, food, or water. I was going to run out of money and then be homeless. Now, obviously that sounds a little bit dramatic, but that was my thought process in the back of my mind, that I couldn't quit because I didn't have a financial backing or a safety net. And in that therapy session, I realized that I just need to call up my parents and ask them, hey, if I leave software engineering and put 12 months into this YouTube channel, will you back me up if I need money? Will you support me for like a base level of rent and food and expenses? And is it okay if I move back home? And as soon as I asked my parents that, they were completely supportive. They in fact knew that YouTube was my true passion around that time. And they were completely happy to provide a safety net at least, so that I wouldn't worry about going hungry, that I would have basic food, rent, and expenses covered from them. Now, obviously this meant that I wouldn't have much income at all, and I would have to cut down on a lot of the other discretionary expenses like travel and coaching and stuff like that. But I was fine with that, as long as I could pay rent. It was gonna be okay. I also talked to my brother, and as soon as I got on the phone with him, he immediately told me, bro, you have to quit. He actually was reading The Alchemist at the time, and he had the same feeling that I did, which is like my destiny, at least what it feels like right now, is to be a YouTuber, to help other people get into tech, rather than ascend it myself and stay at this company. And now we get to the final chapter of the story. So that day, the day that my boss told me that I wasn't going to be promoted unless I put in more hours and more results, I drafted my resignation letter in Microsoft Word, and I immediately scheduled a meeting with him. And the next day, I hopped on a call with him, and my boss just asked me, hey, what's up? What did you want to talk about? And I immediately told him, I have decided to leave the job. I'm quitting effective 2 to 4 weeks from now. And I immediately sent him that resignation letter. And originally I was planning on leaving a month from now, so I wanted to give him as much lead time as possible. But the next day he got back to me and said, hey man, you can just leave next week. It's a natural break point. You're already going to finish up your project anyway, so there's no need to drag this on for too long. And that did hurt a bit because he cut down my time 2 or 3 more weeks, but I also think that made sense, because why would I stick around for another month if my heart wasn't in it? If I was planning on leaving anyway, might as well just like tie up all the loose ends and then leave on a good note. So where does that leave me now? Well, I quit software engineering about 6 weeks ago. Today's date is April 12th, and my last day was at the end of February. And for the last 6 weeks, I've been full-time on YouTube. And I hope you can see the difference. I mean, I've been putting so much more time and effort into these videos. I've been hoping to get 2 a week out for the next year. My goal is actually to hit 100 videos by March of 2025, 100 videos published in the next 12 months. But the more general point here is that the biggest realization I had is that I could not do 2 things at a maximally high level. I could not continue doing YouTube in all my free time and also being a high-level software engineer. Again, I do think that I had the capability to do both. I do have the capability to go back into tech if I really want to ascend, become a senior software engineer, really push to get a really high-paying software engineering job. I've gotten a bunch of internships. I got my full-time job. That possibility is still out there. but it won't happen unless I sacrifice YouTube and go all in. And in the other direction as well, unless I go full-time on YouTube, spend 60 hours a week grinding on this channel, there's no way I'm gonna reach the levels of hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And it goes the other way as well. Unless I put all of my time and effort into this YouTube channel, there is no way that it becomes successful. It's just not gonna happen. I've been doing this part-time for 3 to 4 years now. I know that unless I put all of my waking hours into growing it, I will never reach hundreds of thousands of subscribers. So what are my goals for this channel? Well, we're starting the countdown to 100,000 right now. So where does this leave me now? Well, my major goal for YouTube is by March of 2025 to hit 100,000 subscribers. And I've run the math. 100,000 subscribers means that I can make a full-time income from YouTube. And if I don't hit that number, then there's a good chance I'll be forced to quit YouTube and go back to software engineering. Effectively, my parents have agreed to provide that safety net for the next 12 months. So again, by March 2025, I need to hit about 3 to 4K a month of profit from my channel to be able to survive, to be able to pay rent and put food on the table. So yeah, if you aren't subscribed to this channel and you've already hit this point in this video, please consider subscribing. Every subscription helps, and we're on this journey to 100,000. I'm so excited to see where it goes. Now, in terms of the future of this channel, I also saw 2 paths. One path is that I could ascend the world of tech. I could keep writing as a software engineer and make maybe 1 video every 1 to 2 months, cataloging my journey, maybe try to go make it at Google or Microsoft and ascend and see what that's like. Or another option is I can bring other people on my channel. I can go out there and find those senior software engineers, those tech leads, those principal engineers from those FANG companies, bring them on my channel and ask them for their own advice and experience. And I realized that I would be much better served at the second option. While I am a decent engineer, I found that my skills are much more aligned with packaging up advice, writing, teaching other people, and making YouTube videos helping others land the job of their dreams, rather than landing my tech job of my dreams. There are so many talented engineers out there that have never been on a YouTube channel, that have never been interviewed, that no one has ever talked to. And I would love to be the person, the guy who teases out those habits, strategies, tools of other successful software engineers and share them with you guys so you guys can land the job of your dreams. Now, this brings me to the major announcement, which is that I'm launching a podcast called Liftoff with Aman Manazir. Episode 1 has already been published at this point. It's with my younger brother, Abdaal, who's a quant and an incredibly successful software engineer. This podcast is going to be focused on highlighting the strategies and tools from other successful people in tech. I have a bunch of episodes planned out. I've already filmed a bunch of them, so get subscribed if you want to see those. They're going to be released maybe every 2 weeks or so. I want it to be the best podcast out there in the world of tech, bar none. All right, if you guys have gotten to the end of this video, you guys are the real ones, the true launch crew. We're in deep space right now. I'm so excited to share all of the knowledge and learnings I've had over the last few years working in the world of tech so that you guys can achieve and reach your dreams. If you guys are interested in real-time updates about my life, I actually told all of my newsletter subscribers a month ago that I left software engineering. So you'll get those like early bits and pieces if you subscribe. You can go to amanmanazir.com/newsletter, put in your email. I will never spam you, and you can unsubscribe at any time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.